Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Kupijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jasudanandana Rajajanarandana Jasudanandana Rajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayarada Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Good morning, devotees. Okay, so the verse today is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, verse number 31. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Prayesva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamas Loke Bhakti Ravati Naistaki. Here is the verse. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhaktim Udvahatam Nrinam Jnanavairagya Vidyanam Nahi Kaschid Vyapashraya. Vasudeve, to Lord Vasudev, Krishna. Bhagavati, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktim, love and faith in devotional service. Udvahatam, for those who are caring. Nrinam, men. Jnanavairagya, of real knowledge and detachment. Vidyanam, possessing the powerful strength. Na, not he. Indeed, kaschit, anything. Vyapashraya, as interest or shelter. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Persons engaged in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva Krishna have naturally perfect knowledge and detachment from this material world. Therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness or so-called distress of this world. Purport. Here is the distinction between a devotee and a philosopher who speculates on the subject matter of transcendence. A devotee does not need to cultivate knowledge to understand the falsity or temporary existence of this material world. Because of his unalloyed devotion to Vasudeva, this knowledge and detachment are automatically manifested in his person. As confirmed elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam 127, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janatyasu Vairagyam Gyanam Chat Yadahaitukam. One who engages in unalloyed devotional service to Vasudeva Krishna automatically becomes aware of this material world, and therefore he is naturally detached. This detachment is possible because of his high standard of knowledge. The speculative philosopher tries to understand that this material world is false by cultivating knowledge, but this understanding is automatically manifested in the person of a devotee without separate endeavor. The Mayavadi philosophers may be very proud of their so-called knowledge, but because they do not understand Vasudeva Sarvamiti, they do not understand the world of duality, which is a manifestation of Vasudeva's external energy. Therefore, unless the so-called Gyanis take shelter of Vasudeva, their speculative knowledge is imperfect. They simply think of becoming free from the contamination of the material world, but because they do not take shelter at the lotus feet of Vasudeva, their knowledge is impure. When they actually become pure, they surrender to the lotus feet of Vasudeva. Therefore, the absolute truth is easier to understand for a devotee than for Gyanis who simply speculate to understand Vasudeva. Lord Shiva confirms this statement in the following verse. Let's read the verse again. Persons engaged in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva Krishna have naturally perfect knowledge and detachment from this material world. Therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness or so-called distress of this world. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam karoti vachalam pangum nangayate girim yat kripatamaham vande shigurun dinataranam paramanandamadavam Shri Chaitanyamishwaram Vanchakalpatarvyascha kripasinduvyavacha Patitanam pavanevyo vaishnavevyo namo namaha. This entire section is a curious incident that happened to King Chitraketu. Chitraketu Maharaj was not an ordinary devotee, ordinary being, even an ordinary devotee. He was quite extraordinary, very advanced, very detached. He was going on Harinam around the universe with with an airplane that was gifted by Lord Vishnu to him, and he happened to encounter a meeting of sages that took place uh, Mount Sumeru with Lord Shiva and Parvati. And usually, when someone is in a asana, in a position of um, hierarchy and distributing knowledge, they're sitting by themselves. Let's say that they're in a higher seat and they're delivering knowledge. But Lord Shiva, his wife, Durga, Parvati, Sati, was sitting on his lap, and he was actually hugging her. And this was a meeting of sages. I imagine most of them were celibate and advanced in knowledge. And King Chitraketu saw the paradox in this situation. So he made a comment when he arrived, and to the that was heard by everyone, including Parvati, who wasn't very amused by his comment. And then this is what Chitraketu said, that is kind of strange, that Lord Shiva, and he wasn't being sarcastic. He was just commenting on the irony of the situation. That it's strange that someone who is talking about transcendence to a crew, to an audience of celibate sages, is, has his wife sitting on his lap. So he didn't. Um, Parvati took it as a criticism, but it wasn't. It was just he was pointing out the paradox, and decided to curse it and say, you're speaking like an asura, so there's no point for you to remain in that particular body, and you should be in an asura so you don't incur into so much karma, because this everything has consequences in this world. So in one sense, she was being very upset, and other sense she was kind of being kind. Like if you're if you want to eat meat and you take the body of a tiger, you don't incur into the karma of killing animals. Whereas if you're in a human body and you want to eat meat, then you would incur in karma. So she was gonna give him a way out, but she didn't understand that he was just being pointing out the irony without criticizing the protagonist. So King Chitraketu, who was so powerful that he could counter curse Durga, he took it as he didn't even consider that possibility. He simply decided, "Thank you, I will take the curse," and he started preaching to everybody present, saying about the futility of pursuing happiness, or or trying to avoid distress and trying to pursue happiness. These things in this world are not um, are simply the consequences of our own actions. This is and they come and they go. That is the main characteristic of things in this world, that they are not permanent. Our presence in this world is not permanent. What to speak of the vicissitudes, the activities, uh, the results, everything else that comes with this world. They are here today, gone tomorrow. Will of a wisp. This is um, a world of nomenclatures and falsity. So Prabhupada points out that a devotee doesn't have to cultivate knowledge to understand how this world works and how temporary it is. And he points out also the distinction between a devotee and a philosopher. A philosopher is speculating and wants to come out with some kind of a result that he will take the credit for as his merit. Whereas a devotee understands Vasudeva, Krishna, the Supreme Person, and that's sufficient. That's his real life. That's his real relationship. It doesn't have anything to do with this material world. You leave it behind. It's just like we have seen uh, how a tidal wave is just water. It's just water. May take someone's habitat away. Will take houses and throw them in the ocean or in a river, in a due to a flood, due to a flash flood, like a house. So this is what happens to philosophers, that their entire knowledge and possessions and everything else just gets washed away by the nature of this world. Whereas a devotee is not concerned or should not be concerned. Detachment is happens because he's attached to Krishna and not to the manifestation of his Krishna's external energy, which is the main architect and um, builder in this world. This verse that Prabhupada quotes, Vasudeva Bhagavati from the first canto, says, by rendering devotional service unto the personality of God, that Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causes, knowledge, and detachment from the world. So the devotee is attached to devotional service to Krishna, not to the world. Because to try to understand this world is literally impossible. There are so many moving parts that it's very, very difficult to understand how anything works. And one may think, oh, I understand there is a law of karma, action and reaction, but we don't understand how it works. We don't even understand how um, the time frame where things work. Because we see someone who is a tyrant or an idiot, and they accumulate more and more power, and it seems like they never go away. So we say, well, I just committed a simple offense and I pay the reaction right away. How come this other person who is uh, so blatant and so sinful and so ambitious doesn't have to pay for what they do? So we don't even understand the action and reaction of simple things. What to speak of how the world interacts with the living entities. Um, but as devotees or as aspiring devotees, we should be interested in devotional service, not um, not like the um, karmis and gyanis who they think devotional service is, well, it's just work. It's just the same thing. So Prabhupada comments that those who consider devotional service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to be something like material emotional affairs may argue that in the revealed scriptures, sacrifice, charity, austerity, knowledge, mystic powers, and similar other processes of transcendental realization are recommended. Um, According to them, bhakti, or the devotional service of the Lord, is meant for those who cannot perform the high grade activities. So that's why the Bhaktivinoda Thakur had a hard time preaching bhakti because they thought it was meant for Shudras, Vaishyas, and women that are religious, so they can't do austerities or they can't read scriptures or do sacrifice or or charity, cultivate knowledge, all these things. Um, but it's not true. It's not true because devotional service is above. This is the ticket back to Godhead. All the austerity, all the knowledge, all the sacrifice, all these other things are actually considered a step, just a step towards eventually realizing Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that Krishna is everything. And when one is commented that when one chants Hare Krishna, not just once, when one actually commits to the practice of chanting the Mahamantra, it's understood that person already did all this stuff. They bathed in all the holy rivers, studied all the scriptures, went to all the places of pilgrimage, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff is done. It is done. Now it has given in charity, planted trees, dug up wells. All that is done. Now you just chant Hare Krishna and try to cultivate pure chanting of a holy name. Because all the other processes are binding. They're binding. Because one, by practicing sacrifice and austerities, or by reading the scriptures or studying the scriptures, or by giving in charity or cultivating knowledge, or even developing mystic powers, one becomes proud. So these are very easy to fall in traps to becoming even more entangled in the material world. Whereas devotional service, we do have the option of becoming attached to the result, but it's not up to us. We understand that devotional service is something that is pleasing to Krishna. The purpose of life, the purpose of being a devotee is to please Krishna. And by devotional service, we can please Krishna, or we can just please ourselves. The choice is there. And if one pleases Krishna, one be really pleased. We are directly linked, directly connected as part and parcels of Krishna. There is no separate endeavor. That's why when one practices bhakti, all the other things, mukti and jnana and all this other stuff, comes as a package. So there is another point here where Prabhupada, in the purport, quotes from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, the verse Yenye Ravindraksha Vibhuktamaninas Tvayasta Bhavad Avisuddha Buddhaya Aruhya Krichena Param Param Tata Patanti Adu Nadrita Yusmad Angraya. This is the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, verse 32. And the translation, Prabhupada says, someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees but who have accepted different processes for attaining salvation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods said, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. So what happens to those who are living in Vrindavan and practicing austerities? I've seen, I was walking around years and years ago, and there was a gentleman, a yogi, he lived under a tree, and he had a little swing hanging from a tree um, where he leaned his arms on, and he was standing in one leg. He never sat down. One leg. The other leg was like a crane, like bent against the other leg. So he was standing even when he slept. He slept on that swing uh, for years, decades, practicing austerities. So is that better than making garlands for Krishna Balaram? How is that better? How is that pleasing to Krishna? Okay, this is a Brajavasi. Obviously, anybody who lives and dies in Vrindavan goes back to Godhead. But is that better? Someone who, while in Vrindavan, is practicing austerities, or is more efficient and a faster and easier ride to just do active service for Krishna? So this is explained over and over that all these austerities, everything is meant for Krishna. You cook for Krishna. You practice austerities, you practice austerities for Krishna. The tendency to serve is there. You serve Krishna. This is a lot more efficient. There is a verse from the Narada Pancharatra. Aradito yadi haris tapasat kim, naradito yadi haris tapasat kim. Antarbahir yadi haris tapasat kim, nantarbahir yadi haris tapasat kim. Aradito. Aradito, the word Radha comes from this word. Aradhanam. So, Aradito, if you're worshipping Yadi Haris, if you're worshipping Hari, Tapasata Takim, what's the point of austerities? What's the gain? And Naradito, the opposite of worshipping. If you're not worshipping Hari, then what are your austerities for? Antarbahir, within Yadi Haris, Tapasata Takim. If you know that Krishna is within the heart, what's the point? What's the use of austerities? And if you don't know that, what's the use of austerities? So this verse from Enara Pancharatra decries austerities. It's not that austerities are bad. It's that if they are misdirected or done for one's own aggrandizement or feeling of superiority, then that's misguided and pointless. They take us nowhere. So the purpose of the whole thing, charity, austerity, sacrifice, knowledge, cultivation of knowledge, mystic powers, all of it is meant to satisfy Krishna. So how satisfied will Krishna be with someone who is actually showing off? Not very. Not very. Just like, for example, um, one has a child, and the child uh, is just sacrificing and showing the parents that, look, mommy, daddy, I just I walk on burning coals, or I puncture myself with uh, spears around my body, or I sit in the sun under the scorching heat, surrounded by fire, or I'm dipping myself into freezing cold rivers during the winter season, or I stop breathing it's just the list goes on and on. All sorts of austerities. I'm doing it for you, mommy and daddy. Uh, Mommy and daddy are not going to be very pleased. They don't want the child to suffer. It's not pleasing to parents to see their children suffer. So Krishna is our father and is not pleased by seeing us suffer. So how can we get out of that cycle? We have to just take ourselves out of the center and put Krishna in the center. What does Krishna want? It's pretty simple. Like, for example, if your spouse is diabetic and you constantly make cakes and pastries and Danish for your spouse is not going to be pleased. But I'm doing it for you. Yeah, but I have diabetes. I cannot enjoy that stuff. So why give Krishna things that we enjoy or we like to do without regards for his approval? Krishna already tells us what he wants. It's not very difficult to find out. And this is our prerogative that we can please Krishna quite easily, which is in itself inconceivable. Why? What logic is there that a tiny, fractionary, infinitesimal living entity can please the source of everything? What kind of deal is that? How is it even possible? We don't have the power to do anything, yet we have the power to please the creator and destroyer and lover, everything, everything there is, summum bonum. We can actually please the one who made everything, the one who maintains everything. How is that even logical? It doesn't make sense. But we are part and parcels of Krishna, and Krishna is attached to us because we have the capacity to please him. Krishna wants to please us, but not the wrong way. So we have to go through the proper channels. We have to participate actively in the process of devotional service, be in the association of devotees, take initiation from a spiritual master, reside in a holy place, read the scriptures, all this, even eating is a way to advance. Eating prasadam, not eat anything that is not offerable to Krishna. So the process is quite simple and is delineated for our advantage. Because, again, if you think about it carefully, how is it possible that we have even the choice, the prerogative of pleasing the Supreme Being with our foibles and fallibilities? We have this material body which is completely trapping us. We identify with the body 99.9% of the day, and still we are able to get out of that cycle and please the Supreme Lord, even within this body. Yeah, it's quite inconceivable. Krishna is so kind that allows us to have that privilege that we can actually approach him and we can get out of this trap, this booby trap of the material world, where everything is irrelevant ultimately. As King Chitraketu points out, the things that happen in this world have no incidence over our real self. So Parvati is cursing me. Well, that's fine. I accept that because to try to enjoy or try to avoid suffering in the material world is just the same thing. It's coming anyway. One should concentrate on transcendence and not pay heed to the changes of this world. And this is what the constant is in this world, the changes. There's nothing else that is constant. If you have a particular situation in this world, you can bet on it. You can take it to the bank that it's going to change. You're poor today, you're rich tomorrow, you're poor again, you're young and beautiful today, you're ugly and old the next day. You're happy today, you're unhappy the next day. This is all changing. Everything that you have. Oh, I had such a steady situation. No, you didn't. You never had. The nature of this world is to disrupt everything. Krishna say, Kalos mi bharatar shava. Time I am, I destroy everything. So get used to it. Nothing that you have will remain. Even if you plant some vegetables, the deer, the woodchucks, the cicadas, something will come. The hail, it may be destroyed. You may have a garden today, you may not have a garden the next day. Everything changes in the material world, and we are not used to it. It's unnatural for the soul to undergo so many changes. It's unnatural for us to die. It's unnatural to get sick. It's unnatural to age. It's unnatural. It's completely against nature because we are spiritual and we are trapped in some weird matrix, some identification that we just somehow or other got it stamped. As soon as we take birth, we are completely stuck. Like the song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bulia Tomare Samsari Asya Chinanaye Dridavyata. That I I I was suffering in the womb of my mother, suffering. Yeah, imagine you're put in the trunk of a Fiat for 10 months. Even if you have a tube feeding you, it's miserable. It's horrible. So that's what being in the womb is. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, putting himself in the shoes of a conditioned soul, says, I was praying, and all of a sudden I had your darshan, my Lord, Paramatma appeared. Well, sometimes it happens. You may get a quick darshan. And I promise, he said, I promise, when I get out, I'm going to serve you. That's it. I'm done. I'm not going to do this again. But the impact of birth was too much. And then the affection of my parents and the relatives, and they passed me around, and a little baby. So they made me solidify this misidentification with the body. And then came the time to play, and I had friends, and then education, and then I learned, and they become proud, and then I made money, and then I had a family. And now in my old age, what am I going to do? I forgot about you. That is his plea. So he's pointing out the situation of all living entities that come to the material world. They're tossed around. They're put in a situation where they become attached to certain people because perhaps they're family members, so the same blood runs through their veins. What blood? What is that? That's a karmic situation. That's what families are. You're tossed with certain people and you identify with them more than you identify with the rest. So that takes away some of your empathy. So all these things are depriving you from your needs. Your needs are to become attached to Vasudeva, not to anybody else. Everybody else is the same family, so you can be attached in that way, but not at the expense of forgetting Krishna. So Bhaktivinoda is praying. I'm in my old age. I'm desperate. What am I gonna do? I've forgotten you. The whole purpose of it, even when I was praying in the womb, was to remember you. And now, after so many years of doing so many things that amount to nothing, now I have sacrificed devotional service to Vasudeva for the sake of family, nation, all these identifications that is tied up to the body, not to the soul. Okay, so the solution, simple, pretty simple. Just become attached to Krishna. How is that done? Just somehow or other remain in the association of devotees, and not just people who just happen to, hang around devotees. Find good association, those who are strong in devotional service, those who have the experience of a higher taste and can share it with you. They're willing and able, not just hanging out. You have to actually try to absorb, be a sponge among devotees, learn. Oh, what's your secret? How come you're so attached to Krishna? This is the this is the secret of devotional life. If you want to last, if you want to thrive as a devotee, you have to find very good association. And then, by osmosis, if nothing else, one will make advancement. And at the end of his miserable life or happy life, whatever, it's the same thing. It's just karma coming back your way. Then you will meet the Lord that you've been attempting to worship. Because Krishna doesn't forget. We may forget, but Krishna, anything that we do for Krishna with the right intention, Krishna doesn't not forget. And that is our ticket, that we will actually be with Krishna and all of our desires will be satisfied, as well as the desire of Krishna, because Krishna wants us back. He doesn't enjoy us being tossed around by the modes of nature in the material world and taking another birth. That's not, it's not this vengeful, crazy God that other people worship, in the name of religion, some cruel God that will toss you in hell forever. Krishna is not that. That's a misidentification. Krishna is all kind. He can't wait until we go back. Seems like we can wait to go back to God. We take our time, take body after body, and maybe next time I get it right. And Krishna gives us ample opportunity to transform ourselves, to actually regain our original consciousness. So we should take advantage. Why wait? There's nothing to be gained out of the material world. Or everything that one wants to acquire, exploit, enjoy is of a temporary nature. It will slip from our hands. There is no pleasure in the material world. It's just hard to understand because it seems like everybody's pursuing the same thing. But there isn't. The only pleasure available is to gain entrance into Krishna's exchange of love. So we need help. All right. I'll stop here. Any comments, questions? Anyone who wants to share their realizations or add to my lack of them?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare
So
Krishna.
nice again. Yeah, I'm just wondering what if it is like compared to the yogi, who just stands on one foot. It does seem like such a blissful process and quite easy, quite like it's like okay, you're gonna eat food anyways, just offer it to Krishna and purify it and then eat it, and then you'll gradually you'll make advancement even in that. And so why is it so hard then? What's the difficulty? What is the difficulty? It'd be a good title for a book, huh?
Yeah, what's difficult? It's already written. Srutakirti wrote it. What is the difficulty about practicing devotional service? Is that your question? If it is so blissful?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, for some, it seems too simplistic. They think, oh, no, that couldn't be. It's just like if you go to MIT to a meeting of nerds, that all have PhDs in AI and robotics and quantum physics and so on, and you tell them, you guys have been looking for an equation that defines the purpose of life and the universe and everything. We have it. We have a T-shirt with a Hare Krishna mantra on it. Just chant Hare Krishna. They will laugh at you. They'll say that's ridiculous. That's too simplistic. You cannot do that. It has to be a process of mathematical calculation, and it should take this long and so on. Um, some people find it too easy. No, that couldn't be. That couldn't be. And also, the process of Krishna consciousness is not um, defined by one thing. It can be. It's unlimited because you can serve Krishna in unlimited different types of ways. So if you have a simple mind, just chant Hare Krishna. If you have the desire to make steady advancement, then stick to following the principles and chant Hare Krishna. If you if your mind is always pondering about philosophical things, then follow the principles, chant Hare Krishna, read the scriptures. If you still have trouble, then find a teacher that, it just gets more and more complex according to your needs. So you say it's simple. Yeah, it's simple for the simple minded. And for those who are, they carry a luggage. There was once a time where a friend of mine, when I was a brahmachari, and there was a boy that came to, just started practicing Krishna consciousness, but he was completely contaminated with impersonal philosophy. So his questions were laden with impersonal viewpoints that, but the absolute and the oneness and, the infinite and all these terms that they were just banging around his head, that he could not conceive that there was a person behind all of this, that all these things were energies of a person, just like the sunshine is an energy of the sun. The sun is situated stationary in one place and distributed the energy everywhere. And so Krishna is his own planet, and his energy, both material and spiritual, are distributed everywhere. So, but you have to go back to the person. So we were hammering every day, we were hammering him with philosophy, and it wasn't easy to break. Eventually, it took months, honestly. We were daily hammering him with philosophy, answering his questions, veering his mistaken understanding to the right position. But he was very contaminated by all his ideas that he proudly cultivated. You see, you have to break barriers of ego in order to get, okay. I understand. Now I understand. It's like you become attached to your own conception of things. So it's difficult. Sometimes people are like children that the ideas have to come from, they need to appear as coming from them in order for them to accept it. If you tell them something, they don't want to hear. It conflicts with whatever they have. So for many people, most of the planet, they have been cultivating karma, jnana, and yoga bhukti, mukti, the whole thing, just sense enjoyment. They've been cultivating it for millennia in every body that they have taken. So you come in and tell them, uh, okay, forget about that. Yeah, they won't. But this is better. Yeah, no. I have so many years of experience. I have uh, 20 gazillion lifetimes practicing this. I'm not going to give it up because you tell me that serving Krishna is the solution. So it requires an um, great honesty, sincerity, and vulnerability. You have to actually admit, I'm wrong and I have to change. And but that's not enough. It's like going to an AA meeting. Yes, I'm an alcoholic, but from that to becoming a non-alcoholic is a long way. So people may admit, yes, yes, what you have is better. But in order to break the habit, it may take me many lifetimes. So you have a solution, but you have to have the proper candidate to accept it. It's not is a quid pro quo. You can just hand it over, but it's not enough. Like in an AA meeting, you tell them, drinking is bad. See what it did to your family. See what it did to your job, to your employment. See what it did to your friends. See what it did to you. Look at you. Your liver has cirrhosis from drinking. Yeah, but now you have to break the habit. So the beginning is okay. You tell them this is what you should adopt. This is your new lifestyle. This is your new philosophy, new to you. But they have to make the commitment. You can't force anybody. You can only suggest. You can only try to persuade them that this is for their own good. And it's even better if they convince themselves. You don't have to convince them. You give them the tools with which they can convince themselves, yes, this is a good thing for me. Even if it takes me a long time, I have to do it. Anybody who has been in Krishna consciousness for more than 6 months has to go through a lot of uh, opportunities where you have to use your determination to continue practicing Krishna consciousness. So it is a commitment that needs to be renewed over and over again. Sometimes you just don't have the wherewithal, or you don't have the strength. So you have to somehow or other come hell of high or high water. You have to just continue to practice Krishna consciousness in spite of it. And of course, there's a lot of pleasure, and that may bewilder you too. Oh, I used to chant japa and enjoy it. I don't enjoy it anymore. Well, are you going to stop? No, you have to. You're committed to the process, and the consequences of it, or the side notes like pleasure or pain, they're just that. They're just obstacles on the way that you have to just cross. And you become stronger by going through. When there is pain and difficulty, you just push through. And when there is pleasure associated with it, you don't get absorbed in the pleasure. You just thank you, Krishna, and just keep going. So it's difficult for people to make commitments and to stick to something because their senses are not under control. The mind is not under control. Their determination is porous, has holes in it. So they don't have steady determination. So these are things that need to be cultivated. You need to practice. You don't become a good violin player by playing uh, every Easter. You have to play every day. So you don't become a devotee because you chanted some japa 10 years ago. You have to do it every day. You have to do whatever you do, you have to renew it and do it. And regardless of the consequences, regardless of the damage or gain, you have to do it anyway. Do it as your duty, just like Krishna suggested to Arjuna. Suggested, the Bhagavad Gita is not an order. Until Arjuna accepted Krishna's instructions, it was a suggestion. This is what your problem is. This is what you should do. And even when Arjuna said, yeah, I get it, Krishna still asked him at the very end of the 18th chapter, are you sure you understood? What are you going to do? Yeah, Arjuna said, yeah, I'm in. I'm in. So we have to get to that point that said, just whatever you bring, Krishna, I'm in. I'm in for the long haul. So how many people can do that? They'd rather, figure out their own way and change it when it doesn't work and then change it again. So that's why it's so difficult. The solution seems easy, but it's not because of our conditioning. Is that a fair answer? Oh, the inquirer is gone. All right. So let me
He's
look at
still
the chat.
there.
Dacia is there?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see him.
Yeah, sorry, it cut out for a minute. It cut out.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are
thank you.
you
Very elaborate. Gave me much
okay?
more than I could have bargained for. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay. It's 7:59. I made it to the next hour. Hopefully I kept some of you awake during this time. Thank you for giving me a chance. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada, who saved us all from ourselves, our non-real selves. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's a wonderful class. And I want to welcome you back. It's been a long time since we've had the benefit of your classes. I hope we'll get a chance to hear from you again soon. You made
Thank you,
lot of
Prabhu.
great points, a lot of wonderful points. Gave me lots to think about. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the encouragement. Hare Krishna devotees. Talk to you later. Hari Haribo.